Welcome back to Troubadour Reacts. Today I'm going to actually be react/commenting on Ren's video, 1 million subscribers, defining success. Behind me, I have a lot of books about self-development, self-help. I've been reading self-help, self-development books since I was like 15, 16 years old. I've always been fascinated by that genre and just the kind of betterment of yourself to whatever degree you can, and courses and things like that. So I'm very interested in learning about that. In fact, that whole mentality is what led me to reading the liberal arts kind of education of reading the great books of literature, philosophy, poetry, drama, science, and mathematics from the great books, because I think it's about self-development and the bettering of yourself is what those are actually about. It's that a good liberal education. In that vein, you could support what I'm doing by going to troubadour.studio/iliad. You could download for free chapter 1 of my translation, a full translation of the Iliad for first-time readers. I promise you, if you speak and read English, you can actually understand this and you will understand the Iliad. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this, hit that bell icon, and support what I'm doing here with my reactions. I'm very curious what he's saying because people have really pushed this a lot on the comments in terms of what some of the things that I said in previous videos, what it means to be a reactor today. So I'm interested in what he has to say about that and what it means to be successful in his view. So this is really interesting.
I want to keep this short and sweet because I wrote something that I want to share with you. But first of all, I just want to say how grateful I am. I've reached 1 million subscribers on YouTube, which is flipping huge milestone. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who supported my music over the years, whether you're newly on board or have been here for a while.
I'm newly on board.
I wanted to say thank you to the YouTube reaction community who have gotten behind my stuff in a big way and really helped me reach this goal. So thank you guys.
Oh, so people have been saying this about his views on reactions. If you know other artists like this is really interesting to me because I actually think like he does that reactors they are a kind of marketing arm for the way that a new, especially the independent artist can rise up is if you guys recommend, hey, here's an up and coming artist, Kirk, do a reaction and an analysis. And, I'm incentivized to do that. And I think that will elevate him as an independent artist. So I think I'm learning that from him. I kind of had that view before, but in exploring and learning more about Ren and his community, I've learned that a lot more.
I wanted to read this passage that I wrote about success. It's too much for me to remember right now, so bear with me. But yeah, success to me means that I have a responsibility that transcends me. If I have a platform where people are paying attention, then I feel like it's my duty to make that count. It's far more important than my aspirations with music and what I could personally gain. There's a saying that stuck with me recently, which was a rising tide lifts all ships.
Okay.
Somehow, by finding success for myself has meant that I can find success for the people around me. And that makes me feel very rich.
So I actually like that. I mean, I come from a kind of similar view of the trader, TRADER principle, which is value for value, that a good trader, a good business person actually tries to create value for you, for themselves, for their stakeholders, for everybody. Now, people will do this wrongly, of course, and not bring value. They'll, instead of creating a win-win-win solution, they'll bring win-lose-lose or lose-lose-lose-lose, right? And there's all kinds of horrible things like that. And Ren does some interesting songs about that kind of the destructive doom wheel, and that happens all the time. So, but I like that a lot, yeah.
I'm in a very strange position right now where I owe much of my success to the most destructive force in my life, which has been the turbulence of my physical and mental illness.
Okay.
The thing that has by far brought me the most pain has been a source of constant inspiration, which ironically led to creations which brought me the most joy.
Okay, so I just have to say, I don't know how to say this. It's so weird. I know there's a lot of controversy around this, especially in England. I know a lot of the people who are watching the videos, because this is Ren Gill, he's from the United Kingdom, that there's a lot of controversy about what I'm about to say, I think. I don't know how you guys feel about this. So I have been exploring the work and thinking and life of Amanda Knox. Now, you guys probably know who that is, if you're in England in particular. Pretty much everybody knows who that is at this point. I've read her memoir. I've read this book that just came out. I've seen lots of documentaries. I've even read a lot of the case files because I was interested in the case and how it went down. And I have, and there's a Hulu show that I think is fantastic because it's her telling her story, which is very similar to what I'm seeing Ren talk about, where she has this horrible experience happen to her where she's wrongly convicted of murdering her roommate, even though there's no evidence of anything like that. She's misconstrued intensely in the public sphere, but then she comes out of that, I think, kind of better, stronger, wiser, capable. She's a philosopher now. I think she's actually a good philosopher because she's getting there. She's still young. This book is called My Search for Meaning. And yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting thing he just said there about that, because she was, again, wrongfully imprisoned for 4 years, spent 8 years being thought of as a murderer. And still to this day, even though there's zero evidence, people still think of her as a murderer, which is just a horrific thing, obviously. And yet out of that, she's creating these great, beautiful things. And you see a lot of that in, when you study literature, for instance. There's a lot of, I'm thinking, the first one that came to mind was Cervantes and Don Quixote, where he was wounded at the Battle of Lepanto in 1571. He is, he's very sick. He's almost going to die. And then when he finally gets a little bit healed on his way home, he is kidnapped by Muslim pirates. Or I think are they Ottomans? They're not Ottomans at that time. I'm forgetting the name of the who exactly captured him. But it's basically, the enemy of the Catholic Spanish Church, the Muslims at that time. And he is positioned with them for years in captivity. And finally he's able to go home and, eventually he's able to write some great, beautiful things, including Don Quixote.
Creating art which means something to somebody else and can potentially be a companion to somebody else in the dark justifies my own pain. And I desperately needed that to be justified. There are a lot of people alive today who live in the dark. It's a place that I'm very familiar with. In the peak of my health problems, I was severely underweight. All my meals had to be restricted and blended, and I was so tired that I couldn't participate in life. I couldn't socialize, I couldn't watch films, I couldn't read. My bones constantly hurt. Even standing in the shower was excruciating and exhausting. And this went on for years.
That's such a hard thing to even contemplate.
With no answers. Nobody could have ever convinced me during that time that my pain and suffering would be a source for something good. Because it felt insidious. Nobody could have ever convinced me that something constructive can come from hurting every day. But I'm here to tell you that if you are hurting every day, don't be afraid. One thing I know to be a constant law of the universe, is that life is inconsistent. Life is beautiful and life is hideous. Life is kind and life is cruel. Dancing inside this dichotomy and inconsistency makes me know that you won't hurt forever.
He's just got such a great way with words, by the way. Just dancing inside this dichotomy and inconsistency. But just the idea of dancing as a metaphor, that there's a dichotomy between the beauty and the hideousness, and the inconsistency of it can happen to anybody, anytime, for no reason. Again, I think about Ren and his health problems, Amanda Knox, and so many people like that. And I have not been through anything like this, but we've all been through something, right?
Consistency makes me know that you won't hurt forever. Whether that comes from resolution of what you're going through or acceptance of where you are. You won't hurt forever. You don't know yet whether or not your pain conceals gold. It definitely conceals wisdom, it's definitely a catalyst for filling you with empathy. So stand strong, my friends, and don't let the darkness consume you, because once you know the dark and become intimate with it, you become very capable of wielding the light.
Which is so interesting with his music that I've experienced so far, because it always makes me think of Gothic horror, a lot of dystopian horrors and darkness. So he goes into the darkness intensely. And there's something, but then he tries to bring out some beauty and light and thoughtfulness out of that. I always find that really interesting. By the way, I'm a very pro dystopian horror person. I think there's a lot of value to all of us in Gothic and horror. meditating on those types of things once in a while, but not getting consumed by them over all the time. I'm not a fan of.
You could be instrumental for changing this world for the better. There's nothing humble about shrinking or doubting yourself because you are large. You can be ferocious and you could be magnificent.
Yeah. That's very
For the medical industry, who too often let people fall through the cracks, it's your duty to do better. For the people living in the light, who have either stepped out of their shadow or have never had to walk beside it, it's your responsibility to put out untainted love.
What do you say? I'll say that again.
People living in the light, who have either stepped out of their shadow or have never had to walk beside it, it's your responsibility to put out untainted love.
So that's interesting, because I would feel that would be me. Like, I don't think I've really had that horrible of things happen to me, and I'm 40 years old. I mean, I've had, some death and the things like that I've dealt with, but so I've had difficulties. I shouldn't say that. I've had lots of struggles, but no, I would think of myself as not having anything horrific happen to me in my life yet. I will say, but that's interesting.
Our own greed, desire to ferociously expand, and decisions rooted in self-interest can benefit ourselves in a material sense, but can be very destructive to the hive and the world around us, ultimately hurting ourselves.
So that's a common thing. Being selfish can harm people around us and harm ourselves, which is a form of selfishness to not be that kind of selfishness. I have come to just distinguish between types of selfishness. So I think of it as there's the selfishness that is short range and possibly destructive. And then there's the long range rational selfishness, which is to develop long range values in your life, friendships, career passions, your values of your interests that you like, that you will pursue in a way that benefits you and anybody that you choose to value, and without harming people, that there isn't a necessity to harm people. That's how I think of it. But I still think it comes back to the self, though. Like, that you do it for other people, for yourself in a sense. So like when I do these videos, I'm not actually making money on these videos yet. It's only if you go to that troubadour.studio stuff. I do it because I'm trying to bring value, literary and thoughtful value to you. And hopefully you'll, come in and check out what I'm doing. And I think it seems like Ren did something very similar in the sense of creating his music out of this darkness. And he has hit a great success, and rightfully so. He earned it.
So we really must consider that if we're going to step into a bright future. As humans, we have an incredible potential, and it would be a shame to throw it away. So community, humanity, and changing our relationship with the natural world so it leans more towards homeostasis must be a priority. Priority number one.
Yeah, so he's totally a romantic. And I mean like that in the technical sense of like the 18th, 19th century romantics, particularly, well, really all the romantics. This is Rousseau, but he always reminds me of William Blake, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and Wordsworth, and all these people. I think there's deep philosophies there. And even in Byron, Keats, and a variety of other people, romantics.
If you're watching this and there's a knot tied up in your stomach with bitterness, anger, or hatred for your fellow human being, be with it, feel it, understand it,
that's good
express
advice.
it, and then let it go.
That is so good advice. So I say this all the time on my channel, my other channel particularly, the literature one, about something Blake said in The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. He gives these idioms, analogies of hell. And what is one of them? It's like, he who desires but acts, ACTS, acts not, breeds pestilence. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, if you desire something bad, you should literally act it out. Part of acting is thinking it through. That's what the imagination can allow you to do. Write it out, express it. So whatever you feel, write it out, experience it, think about it, put it in front of you. That's one of the deep values of darker and Gothic and dystopian and horror stories, is you could see your worstness, contemplate that in another form and purge it out of your system as, no, I don't like that, and choose otherwise. So this is gold. The man read.
Give yourself love, forgive yourself, and then project that love outwards, and the anger will pass. We have a decision in every interaction to tilt the world towards heaven or hell.
Dude, all right. That's so Blake. Yes, that's Blake. that is specifically a view from John Milton. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. But William Blake does a lot with expanding and thinking through what they mean by that, which, is a whole other conversation about those two. But Ren is awesome. I'm really a fan of Ren, like for reals.
Towards Jannah or Jahannam, utopia or dystopia. And some people's ideas of heaven will be another's image of hell. So tread carefully, but treat those differences with respect. Tapestries are made beautiful because of the variety and the sum of their parts.
Yeah, the tapestry argument is an old Christian argument. Melville has a really interesting, Herman Melville in the Moby Dick has a really interesting chapter called the Mat Weaver, which is when him and Queequeg are making these mats, and he talks about this weaving tapestry. And it's like the woof and woe, I think it's called. And it's like the thing, and it's about his will. But this idea that we're part of this tapestry is an old argument. I don't agree with it, actually, but I do think there's some interesting, I don't fully agree with it. Sorry, I should say that. I don't fully agree with it. It's a metaphor, and it's an interesting one about the interconnections between all of us, which there are interconnections. But I don't think that there are as deep metaphysical interconnections that some people have view. Yeah.
Thank you to 1 million people inside this rich tapestry for the opportunity for me to try and spread my own vision of what I believe to be good. And thank you for justifying my pain. Thank you. I love you.
That was beautiful. I hope you didn't take any of my comments as any kind of criticism. I'm really genuinely loving what Ren is putting out there. I think it's wonderful. And I agree with pretty much a lot of what he says. I agree with so much of it. So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy learning from him. I agree a rising tide lifts all boats. And there's a lot that we could do together as reactors, as fans, as communities, and different communities around the world to, prop up the kind of artists that we like, the kind of commenters that we like, the books that we like. Like, we need to do that individually, and we need to support each other in doing that. Not just me, but you and Ren and all of us. And I think we're all doing that. And I am proud to be a part of this. So thank you for, joining me on this journey.